So yesterday I had my last day at work. I got a new job and left. I didn't get fired. I just feel the need to clarify that. And as I was reading my leaving card that was signed by people from my work, there was a lot of mentions of me doing tarot readings. And I know this sounds weird, but at my work I kept a pack of tarot cards on my desk. And I would sometimes do readings for people just for a bit of fun. And for context, I work in a really corporate environment, which kind of makes that even weirder. They were probably like, thank God she left, that weird girl in the corner reading people's futures. But anyway, it gave me an idea for a video of giving you book recommendations based on the cards you pick. I think I did see this video idea on YouTube before, so I'm not taking credit for it, and I'll try and find the video and link it down below. But I'm hoping you guys enjoy the more interactive element of this video. And if you're new here, hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Katerina. I talk a lot about books with a hint of weirdness, as you can see, so if that's your thing, feel free to subscribe. Anyway, let's get into the video. So I actually just have a standard tarot card deck. I think I actually got these from Amazon. I actually bought these whilst I was at uni, so I've had them for a good 6-7 years now. And to be honest, I do these more for other people than myself, because I find it an interesting way to get to know people and also just to break the ice with some people that I haven't met before. As you'll see, some of these cards are reversed, but that's done on purpose because depending on how you draw the card affects your reading. But today I'm going to be doing them all upright for simplicity. So I'm just shuffling the cards to hopefully make sure I pick out some quite different ones, and then I'll spread them out as evenly as possible, but kind of failing, as you can see. And then I'm just going to draw 3 random ones. We'll clear the others away. Okay, now for the most important bit. Just pick whichever of the 3 cards you're most drawn to. Don't kind of see them as like the first, the middle, the last. Kind of just see them as like card 1, 2, and 3, that they all have equal weighting. And just pick whichever one that you feel like you're gravitating towards. You know, what does your gut say? Which one do you feel like you're most drawn to? Okay, I hope you've picked your card. If not, feel free to pause the video, but if you have, let's begin. Okay, so if you picked the card on the left, we have the 5 of Wands. I actually do have a book to tell me what each card is about, because as much as I'd love to remember each card, my brain physically does not have the capacity to do that. So we are using the book instead. Okay, so here it tells us that the 5 of Wands is about competition in economic, social, and career areas. It signifies the mad scramble for money and power, success and recognition, with excesses of greed and corruption. It can also indicate that you are involved in ego battles with other people in your workplace or social arena. Often the image on the card shows 5 men fighting amongst themselves, using their staves as weapons. Okay, so really the overriding themes here are competition, desire for money and success, and there's also feelings of greed here. So I'm automatically thinking of books within like a workplace environment, or that have a very anti-capitalist narrative, with also quite a perhaps corrupted character. I don't know how I feel about drawing such a negative card already, but we'll roll with it, it's fine. I'm actually going to be suggesting 2 books for each card, just so if you don't really vibe with one, you can then pick the other. Okay, so starting off potentially quite heavy, the very first book I'm going to recommend for this card is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. So just to give you a little bit of context of what this book is about, it is set in the 1980s in Manhattan in New York, and we follow a young but extremely wealthy investment banker who thrives from the power he gets in his job, as well as the vanity of his good looks and his very expensive wardrobe. His life is very money and success orientated, and there's a lot of discussions about consumption. However, despite all this superficiality, our main character actually lives a double life as a serial killer. Not ideal. And he just has this insatiable bloodlust, which leads him to commit some pretty horrific acts of violence. And to be honest, I'm still not over the rat scene in this book. If you know, you know. That's all I'm gonna say. But this honestly was definitely the first book I thought of when I pulled this card. Especially with the imagery of like the men fighting over the staves. I just feel like this is almost like our main character fighting for success and power with his other colleagues at his work. But I'm not gonna lie, I also just really love this book in general, which I'm sure my therapist would be very concerned to hear. But I just feel like this book is the most perfect critique of capitalism and overconsumption in society. And where this relentless chase of wealth and success just ultimately ends up dehumanizing other people, leading these people that chase power to essentially go mad, and then they inflict pain on other people. And it kind of just shows that like no one really benefits from a society like this. Everyone seems to lose. And it's such an interesting satirical exploration into the American dream, ultimately showing how unchecked greed and materialism just leads to awful consequences. I haven't stopped thinking about this book since I read it, and that's why I'm recommending it to you also. That being said, if you hate gore and trauma and this is not your book, don't worry, I got you. I have a second book to recommend for this card, and that's A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. So this classic novel is set in London during the Victorian era, and we follow another wealthy and greedy man whose life is just purely revolved around making money. Since day one, he's hoarded his wealth with no other thought for the people around him. However, on one Christmas Eve, he's visited by 3 ghosts who essentially force him to confront the consequences of this greed and how it's had really bad consequences on other people in his life. However, unlike the last novel, this definitely has a much happier ending because it shows that it's never too late to change your ways. Like I said, this is a much more enjoyable and light-hearted read compared to the first one, but it still has the same messaging of how greed and corruption can affect the many people around you, and it shows how society still suffers when pursuing wealth is its only goal. However, this story shows the value of compassion and generosity, which is just really nice, and just the overall message that kindness can go further than you think. Because at the end of the day, money is replaceable, but the people in your life and the relationships you have with them are not. It's a lovely book, and it's an amazing classic, and it's one that I think everyone should read. Moving on to our next card. If you picked the card in the middle, we have the 8 of Pentacles. I seem to draw the pentacles quite often, and I believe it's because they signify safety and security, which doesn't surprise me because this is something that brings me a great sense of calm. And hopefully if you picked this card, that is something that you prioritize also. So here in the book, it says that the 8 of Pentacles is a card of craftsmanship and conscientious work. It suggests developing and applying your skills in a productive manner. You know what you want and how to go about achieving it. Be sincere and persevere, and your efforts will succeed. A business or project will prosper as a result of refining your craft or improving your processes. A new venture brings success because you are training yourself intensively with a clear goal in mind. Okay, so the overriding themes here are very obviously skills and success, and more specifically, developing and refining these skills for a productive reason. I'm straight away thinking of habits and hobbies that can benefit your career or your personal life, which is leading me towards self-help books, which I'm kind of erring against because I really don't like self-help books. But there are a few that I genuinely think are good, and one of them I'm going to suggest for this card is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'll be so honest, when I got this book, I was super skeptical about it, but I was so pleasantly surprised when I finished reading it. This book is essentially about how making small changes every day in your life can lead to big improvements in the long run. And by explaining the simple psychology of how our brains work, the author lays out a step-by-step approach in how to build good habits, but also how to break bad ones. I personally always thought that I couldn't really stick to habits because I wasn't motivated enough. This book made me realize that you could be the most motivated person on earth, but unless you have systems in place to stick to these habits, you just won't do them. And change doesn't happen in one sudden big leap, it happens with small steps every day. And I think that it's incredibly fitting for this card because it can teach you how to form a habit in order to master and refine your skill. Whether that's in your current job or personal life, it increases productivity to help you reach whatever goal you have. I actually use the methods in this book for a few things in my personal life, and I found that it actually really did help me stick to the habits, which is why I would also recommend this book to you if you're wanting to reach a goal for something in your life. However, if you don't like self-help books at all, which I don't blame you for, don't worry, I have another recommendation for you. So the second book is What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, and this is a memoir from the author Haruki Murakami, who also wrote Norwegian Wood and Kafka on the Shore. And this memoir basically follows his author through his journey of being a long-distance runner. I actually had no idea that this author was an avid runner, so this book was actually really interesting to read because he meditates on how improving his skill in running therefore helps him write better in his career. He explores how the mental and physical discipline and persistence that's required in long-distance running actually mirrors the qualities you need to succeed in any career, because it builds resilience and it teaches you how to maintain stamina. And it's really funny because I personally hate running, yet I really enjoyed this book. And I just found it really interesting about the lessons he learnt whilst running can honestly be applied to any skill, particularly in the context of work, but it could also work for any personal goals you're trying to reach too. Which, to be honest, I think is a perfect choice for this tarot card, as it ultimately helps you increase productivity and master your skills. Okay, moving on to our very final card. If you picked the card on the right, we have the Fool. I actually don't think I've drawn this card before, which is actually really exciting. So unlike the first two cards, which were in the minor arcana, this is in the major one, so the interpretation tends to be a little bit longer. So In the book, it says, when the Fool appears in a reading, it symbolizes embarking on a new way of life. This may involve a physical journey, moving to a new place, starting a new job, or getting married or divorced. Often, the appearance of the Fool indicates a person who is beginning a spiritual path, who has absolute faith in the universe. In such a case, the person has no fear and feels that everything will turn out well. The person may be in touch with the intuitive realm, or they may simply be naive about the future. The Fool represents a state of openness and faith that they'll be supported in their adventure. Okay, so the overriding themes here are very much about new starts in life and fresh beginnings. And it touched upon starting a new job or a new place, or the start and end of relationships. And like the first card I pulled, I have a heavy read and a lighter read depending on your choice of what you want to go for. So the first book I'm going to be recommending, which is the heavier one, is Freshwater for Flowers by Valerie Perrin. This is a French novel that's set in a small village, and we follow a woman who is actually a cemetery caretaker. Her life is a pretty repetitive routine of tending to the graves and comforting those who are mourning. But we soon find out that our main character actually has had quite a traumatic past of sorrow and heartbreak and is currently on a journey of healing. And despite the perhaps depressing setting of being in a cemetery with themes of death and regret are involved, there's also some really uplifting and lovely narratives that the book has, including marriage, motherhood, love, and second chances. And I feel like I talk about this book a lot on this channel, but it's because I love it so much. Our main character just learns to gradually let go of the past and embrace new beginnings, which she hasn't let herself do out of guilt, but it's just such a refreshing read because she just opens herself up to possibility of happiness once more. It literally has the word fresh in the title, so this book is all about fresh starts. And I don't want to give too much of the plot away because I feel like it's better if you go into this book without knowing anything. But I just think that this book is perfect for this card pulled because it really beautifully captures the idea of starting over despite your past, whether it's in a new place, new job, or a relationship, which this character gets all of them in the book. And whilst there are some very heavy plot points, I just think that this is a gorgeous novel of fresh beginnings, and I think that it's one that everyone should read. And for my second book for this, I'm going to recommend something more fun and adventurous. This card just also gave me vibes of like starting a new life and going on an adventure. And whilst I could recommend so many adventure books like Harry Potter or Narnia or The Hobbit, the book actually references how mythologically the Fool is linked to Dionysius, which is the ancient Greek god. So I feel like it's only fitting for the second book for me to recommend to you for this is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Riordan. This book is set in modern day America, and it follows a young boy who discovers that his father is the Greek god Poseidon. And this revelation just does a 180 on his life, and he's suddenly thrown into a world of monsters, myths, and quests. And in this book specifically, he has to retrieve Zeus's lightning bolt from the underworld in order to stop a war from breaking out between all the gods. Very dramatic. I feel like that this is such a fun book about new beginnings and adventure, because before our main character discovered his true identity, he always just kind of felt like he didn't belong in the world. He felt like that weird kid who was always the odd one out. But in this book, when he discovers who he really is, he has to embrace change and step into the unknown, which can be really scary. But that's how we essentially grow as people. It's a journey about self-discovery and taking risks. And I feel like this can apply in everyday life. Like, I'm starting a new job in 2 weeks, and whilst that is really scary, it's also something quite exciting because it's new. And I know I'm getting deep here, but as people, we can only really grow when we're outside of our comfort zones, which is something that I really actively encourage anyone to do. And if you're worried you're not going to like this book because it's a kid's book, I actually read the series for the first time when I was 22 and I loved them, so give them a try and see what you think. And those are all the books I have from this tarot reading. Did you guys enjoy this video? I had so much fun making it, and mixing my love of tarot cards and books is just honestly, I just absolutely adore. If you guys enjoyed it and liked the interactive element of it, let me know and I will happily make more of these videos in the future. That being said, if you liked it, please drop a like down below. It really helps my channel out. And feel free to subscribe. I make new videos every Tuesday. That way you can see me yapping about books every single week. Feel free to also follow me on my Instagram. I post a bit more personal stuff on there, but I also post about books as soon as I finish reading them, so you can see what they're about and also what I've rated them out of 10. And also feel free to follow me on my Goodreads. I'm slowly adding all the books I've ever read on there, so it's very much a work in progress, but feel free to show me some love on there too. Thank you so much for being here and listening to me yap away about books and tarot, and I shall hopefully see you in the next one. Bye!